The other immersive sim made by Arcane, Prey 2017, is a more modern immersive sim, most comparable, I'd say, to BioShock. Prey 2017 shares no relation to the original Prey in 2006. The story here is that Bethesda Softworks acquired the rights to the game in 2008, where Prey 2 started to be developed and then it was canceled. It wasn't until E3 2016 when it was announced that Prey was being made by Arcane and would release in 2017. Prey 2017 is not a reboot, sequel, or any remake of any kind. It's entirely its own thing. Not comparable to the original, I'd say. It's too different. So, with all this context out the way, let's talk about it. You play as Morgan Yu, a scientist, and you wake up on a bright day to go out and do some tests, as you're about to go to space soon. You meet up with your brother Alex, and do basically the tutorial of the gameplay basics, when suddenly, a creature that was a coffee cup kills the scientist in front of you and you are knocked out by the gas, and it fades to black. You play as Morgan Yu, a scientist, and you wake up on a bright day and go out and do... I feel like I've done this before. Am I bugging? No, I am not bugging. Something weird is going on. We meet January, who tells us that yesterday really did happen. But it's not yesterday. What do you mean yesterday? It's today. What? I don't know what's going on. But I see this corpse with a wrench. Classic immersive sim weapon, and I'm getting the fuck out of here. But as you soon find out, not everything is as it seems. The story is pretty simple. In fact, they tell you at the beginning of the game your options. Either blow up Talos 1, the station you're on, or escape it via Alex's escape pod. An alien organism, the Typhon, which was being studied, broke the containment. And now you need to get those neuromods, find people, gear up, and get door codes in this sci-fi adventure. All the backstory is told through transcribes, basically audio logs, that tell you what life was like before the containment break, and even during. I liked the story. It was pretty interesting because you couldn't tell who was lying and who was telling the truth, until the end of course. You'll meet a variety of interesting characters and be faced with certain choices that have an effect on your ending. The ending is probably the most interesting part of the whole story. They do it New Vegas style where they reflect on your actions. Actually, pretty similar to the ending of Dishonored 2 as well. My biggest critique of the ending, however, is that there are certain choices that have no effect on a big piece of the ending, which sucks. However, it would make a sequel more likely to happen, since the ending is the same. See, the problem with having multiple endings in a game is that if a sequel comes out, you need to decide which one is canon. Take Metro Last Light. In 2033, you can choose to either kill or spare the Dark Ones, but in Last Light, they made the kill ending canon. Prey solves this problem and sets up a potential sequel by making a big piece of the ending the same, but allowing variations so that you can still have a unique experience. Well done, honestly. This gameplay is basically what I would call modern BioShock. Don't crucify me, but when I played BioShock, I thought it was pretty boring. I played it on max difficulty, which is probably my fault, and basically everything was a bullet sponge, and death literally meant nothing because they would just respawn me at the nearest respawn point and keep all enemy health the same. So I ended up just brute forcing my way through the most of it. I really didn't like the gameplay, but the story is amazing. Now, this gameplay is more modern. First of all, you have sprint, slide, and slide jump, so you have a degree of finesse to actually outplay the AI instead of purely being at the mercy of the resources you have. That aspect is still present though. You can't just take any fight if you don't have sufficient resources. It's an easy way to die. Similar to BioShock, you can scan enemies to learn their weaknesses, but this is also how you learn new powers. You scan the Typhon to learn the power it uses. Everything else is just classic immersive sim. You find key cards to access new areas, you can upgrade your weapons with upgrade kits. You won't be able to fully upgrade everything. You need to decide what you're prioritizing. For me, it was full shotgun and pistol. but there's also a stun gun, laser beam, and a glue gun, which is both an immobilizer and an exploration tool. Powers range from mimicking objects to a blast, to mind controlling machines and more. And by the way, it's called immersive sim for a reason. You can interact with everything, and I found myself getting lost in the game, just exploring all that I can, which they give you a lot to explore. It's what I would call open spaceship. As long as you have the codes and key cards, you can go wherever you want. But some areas might be too high level at first, so you'll either need to finesse or come back later to it. Now, let's talk about neuromods. Neuromods are how you spec out your character in this game. At first, it's just classic immersive sim stuff. Repairing, lifting, shooting, all that. But once you get an item called the psychoscope, you can unlock powers. And here's some interesting lore about the powers. When you give yourself a power, you are actually putting a piece of the Typhon DNA into yourself. So when you get 3 powers, the once friendly turrets will now turn on you, as you become indistinguishable from the Typhon in their eyes. Speaking of Typhon, they're fun to fight. The first enemy you meet is called a Mimic, which is exactly what it sounds like. After that, there are Phantoms, which move fast and strike fast. Then there's Fire Phantoms, Electric Phantoms, these wizard dudes, and even this motherfucker. The enemies all offer something unique, which is good. I'd say that the only repetitive enemy is the corrupted bots because they're all the same thing, so there's not really that much you can do with it. Combat is fast and fun, exactly what I like. No complaints, honestly. The only other thing I want to touch up on is things you can do in immersive sim, because like I mentioned before, the first newer mods you unlock are classic immersive sim mods. So hacking, repairing, and lifting are all things you can do around the map, and for lifting, you can use objects as a weapon. This is honestly one of my favorite genres. I get very into the game, and if you're new to the genre and you like FPS games, I think that you'll enjoy this a lot. Prey 2017 is a very good game. It may not innovate, but it does what it does very well, and I think that's perfectly fine. I give Prey a 9 for having a polished gameplay loop, a good map to explore, having a varied ending, and an overall enjoyable story. If you like FPS games, you will like this.